from writing the actual theme song for the Stanley Cup for the NHL, to having songs in Morgan Freeman documentaries, to just having songs on really cool TV shows, doing trailers. And it's so fantastic to like be part of these other legacies. Hi, I'm Adila, singer, rapper, songwriter, and now children's book author. I grew up in South Africa during the apartheid, and the segregation was super real. Like, we had signs that said non-whites not allowed, whites allowed. I went to a really segregated school, and when I was about 9, my parents were like, we have to leave. My dad was a professional soccer player. He ran track. He had endorsements with Adidas. So by all means, we had a good life. But he was still not allowed to do things like, even to games and stuff, he was still not allowed to ride with the white players or sit in the same restaurants as them. And they didn't want that for us. They're like, we just can't do this. So we came to the US, and like, believe it or not, I assimilated really well. I made lots of friends immediately. And I loved it. I loved being here. I grew up in South Florida. I was really young when I joined the choir. And I was like that kid that was up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, ready for choir practice and school. I knew that's what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to do music. And then like going into middle school, I was like, Dad, I'm going to be a rapper. And he's like, don't you say that. You're going to college and you're going to do something with your life. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be a rapper. And I surely went to college. I got a degree in biology, but music always called me. So that's when I started making my own music, because I was so influenced by rap, especially like artists like Nas and Pac, and, you know, listening to them storytell was something that I would then go into my bedroom and I would play these instrumentals and I would use their melodies and flows to rewrite songs. And slowly somebody introduced me to a studio. Like, hey, come in here and record a song. And I remember, I'm sure it was trash, but I was like, I love this. And so I started working as an independent artist. And I want to say my first album I did was called Off the Burner. And it was the perfect 9-song album. Like, I rapped and I sang, because I wanted to show people that I could make a complete body of work. Because it's one thing when you're dropping singles and it's like, okay, well, what else do you have? No, I can do this entire body of work. And I started the first lyric on the album. It said, I felt hopeless. And the last lyric on the album said, fuck you, pay me. So I took people on this journey. Like, here I am, I'm singing really pretty, but by the end, I'm busting it down on these raps. That album laid the concrete for like where my music career would be. It was like, it didn't do numbers. It didn't do great, but what it did was it showed people that like, oh, this is the type of artist she is. Like, she's not making a single that's going to get on radio or just be there for streaming or following a trend. And then from there, I had an idea. I was like, I want to work with rappers, other rappers. I want them to feature on my album. And I started making a list. And my second project featured Fat Joe, Royce the 5'9", Cormega, John Connor, Torre, Sky Zoo. I mean, it was just spitters. And I had to keep up with them. Like, I still listen to the Royce the 5'9" track, and I'm like, it's Royce, myself, and John Connor. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm sitting in between on a verse, the two of them. And we're on par. I mean, Royce is like one of the most genius rappers of all time. So I did that album, and then I got a call about a record I had called Octane, and it was like a very Beastie Boys type record. It was just wild. and I got a sync for it. And I didn't know what sync was. I was like, what is this? And when I saw the trailer for this video game, Riders Republic, and I heard my voice, I was like in love. I was like, this is where I want to be. I want to be part of these worlds. And so I decided I was gonna like make a couple more records. Now keep in mind that first song that synced was from my very first album. So it was sitting there, and while in my mind I was like, it didn't really do much, but it came all the way back around full circle and brought me into this world. So then I went in the studio with the producer, Miss Madley, and I'm like, let's make like 5 records. We're gonna do this in like 3 weeks. I have the 5 records. Now I'm like, what do I do with these records? And I called around and I'm like, who do I shop this to? Like, I kind of have no idea what to do with this. And somebody had said, hit up this guy, Ollie Shepard at APG. And so I sent him a DM and I said, can you check out my music? I think I have something you would be interested in. And he was like, sure. I hadn't heard from him for a week. I hit him back. And he called me and he said, we want to sign you. And I remember the first time I met Ollie, and he's one of those people that like I hold dearly to me because I feel like he gave me such a chance in this. Like, we hit the ground running. He really believed in me and believes in me. But he said to me, you're the reason I'm always going to listen to people's music, because if I hadn't listened to it, I wouldn't have discovered you. And so from there, I started working with other companies, and just I've done really cool shit, like everything from writing the actual theme song for the Stanley Cup for the NHL, to having songs in Morgan Freeman documentaries, to just having songs on really cool TV shows, doing trailers. And it's so fantastic to like be part of these other legacies. You know, like now I'm part of the NHL and the NFL and all of these different things. So I love where I am musically. And I think that it was always hard for me to be this artist that was in a box of like, you are hip hop, you are R&B. And this allows me to be all of these different things, but still be Adila, which is what I love. Because I've always hated the box. And so that's what that gave me. So I made a track called Champion, and I got a call that the NHL wanted to use it, but they wanted to use it as long as I could be in the video. And I immediately said yes, went home. I was at South by Southwest, flew home when I did, went into the studio and changed up some of the words, some of the lyrics, because I was like, okay, let's make this really specific. So they call me and they're like, okay, we're gonna do the music video. And I'm like, perfect. Where are we doing it? And they're like, on the ice. And I'm like, okay, but I can't ice skate. Like, how are we gonna do this? And they're like, you're gonna be fine. So I went to New York, and it was the coolest experience to be able to like go up to the NHL offices. I shot there. I shot with a marching band on the ice. I sustained an injury at the hotel room in the middle of the night when my cell phone dropped and I hit my nose on the nightstand. So that was my injury I sustained. But that was another cool moment. Like when I saw the finished product and the video, here I am, Adila. I'm in the NHL gear. I'm on the ice with a marching band. And then there's all these like legendary hockey players. And I was like, yeah, no, now I'm part of that legacy too. Like, I'm part of that world. So that was really neat. A couple years ago, 2 years ago, my dog Honey, I have 3 dogs, but my dog Honey specifically, she was about to be 14 years old. And she was perfectly healthy, but I knew the end was coming because she was 14. So I had this idea to start writing a book series, just like funny stories for kids about my dogs, Honey and Coco. 6 months later, she passed away. It turned out she had cancer. And that was a point in my life where if you listen to my music is powerful, it's bossy, it's high energy. I was none of those things at that moment in my life. Like, I was dealing with so much grief that I couldn't go into a studio, and I absolutely didn't want to make music. But I still am a creator at heart, and I needed a release. So I just holed up in my home, and I just started writing these stories about Honey and Coco, and they live in this neighborhood called Whisker Woods, because I felt like this was a way to like pay tribute to them, but also leave a legacy. Like, I don't care, not that I don't care, but I feel like, how cool is it in 100 years if some kid at a thrift store finds this book and it's about these goofy dogs and they find joy in that. And I wanted to share that story. And like, of course, like, I'm writing and I hit like 22 books, and at that point I should probably stop. But I'm like, no. Now Whisker Woods needs a soundtrack. So we made Chase the Happy. And again, those same creators that I created with on my first albums, I called on them. These are the same creators I make music with on the sync side. And I said, do you guys want to work on this album? It's inspired by my dogs. It's called Chase the Happy. And immediately they were like, yeah, of course we want to do this. And I was so humbled, because you have these super talented, I mean, Grammy nominated, Emmy nominated artists, writers, producers that put 1,000,000% into working on a kid's album that were inspired by dogs. And the album, we released it in March, and it made like an editorial playlist, and it's doing well on Pandora. And you know, people ask me, they're like, what do you think is making it do so well? I'm like, the music. The music is so good. And when you have good music, it's going to travel where it travels, and it's going to go where it goes. So I've been really happy with that.
I run this, who on the hit list? Hijack the speakers, shut down the district. Get reckless, curate the hit list. Hijack the speakers, shut down the district. I run teams, I run up on teams.
So my relationship with Songtrust is they have my first album, which is obviously very dear to me, Off the Burner. I named my company Off the Burner. And they handle that first project. And along with that, we've done a lot of really cool things together. For instance, when I did Chase the Happy, the album, we were able to roll out our social and emotional resources that we provided for parents, teachers, and kids with Songtrust. And I've done panels with them, and yeah, that's it. I just want to leave a legacy. Like, that's what I want. I want my music to be something people can listen to a long time from now, and it still be relevant, and it still have a sound that's like, wow, that was classic. Like, that transcended. Like, if you play a Sinatra record today, it still gives you a feeling inside that you're just like, okay, yeah, I feel this powerful feeling. That's what I want. I want to make that kind of music. I don't want to make what happens to be popping at the time. You know?
Yeah, I run this, who on the hit list? Hijack the speakers, shut down the district. Get wrecked.